Bye, Jen. Bye, Jen. Bye, Jen. Bye, Jen. Bye, Jen. Okay, welcome back, everyone. In this video, I'm going to tell you about some of the new features I've been working on for the Diversion add-on, which is coming sometime this year. In quotes. We're going to talk about surface effects, like multi-layered things. It looks very cool. You can like paint different effects on and stack them up using geometry nodes, and also mesh displacement, and just some other aspects about software development and design that I think you might be interested in. Of course, before we start, I need to let you know that this video is sponsored by NVIDIA and PCSpecialist, but we'll talk more about that later. Okay, so let's take a vote. What do you want me to show you first? The multi-layered surface effects or the mesh displacement? Vote now. I can hear you. It's telepathic. Don't worry. Mesh displacement. All right, got it. So let's open that file. Okay, so here I've opened a suspiciously pre-prepared demonstration file. And in Diversion, one of the new features I'm adding is mesh displacement, which I'm categorizing under mesh effects. What I've done here is I've just collapsed all of the panels. Another thing you might notice as well is that we've got a lot of iconography here. These are just icons that are already in Blender, but I thought it would be nice to attach them to the actual add-on. So under the mesh effects, we now have subcategories. So we have modifier styles, which is what Diversion was originally all about, which is where you can add different modifier stacks to pre-existing objects to get procedural effects. Alright, so I just want to jump in here and say that the modifier styles will likely stay the same for the release of version 9. Of course, parametric modeling is a cornerstone of the add-on, and I'm excited to do new things with it, including things like branch surface generators for ivy, tree roots, and things like that. But I'm just waiting for more modifiers to be added as nodes before converting this whole part of the add-on to be a version completely dependent on geometry nodes. So for now, parametric modeling is on pause while the other new features are being added. But with Diversion 9, I've also added a displacement section, which is where we can have presets, just like the surface effects, for creating high quality extrusion effects. That's all displacement means. It takes a geometry that's already there and then it displaces it from its original position based on either a procedural texture, so just mathematical generated noise, or from an actual texture. But if you're using a texture, it's quite a simple principle and you probably already know it. Black represents 0 and white represents 1. And the more white a pixel is, the more displaced that vertex is going to be. So I have a tunnel scene here and I've already got one of the effects applied. So I'm going to remove that geometry nodes modifier. Bit of a spoiler. This is quite simple. It just started off as a plane and it's got a very, very high level subdivision surface modifier. You can see it's got levels in the viewport 9 and render 9. The normals are pointing inwards rather than outwards as well. So it makes sense to look at it from the inside. Now we don't need 9 subdivision levels for this. I'm going to put it down to 6 for now for the viewport. But having this difference is going to be important for the final renders. So yeah, I've got this tunnel and it's pointing inwards, very easy to set up. And then if I just go to my displacement section in Diversion, click the pipe panels and then apply to selected, it automatically applies the effect. Obviously it doesn't look great with the low subdivision level, but if we look in the geometry nodes tree here, we can see that we have options for different types of mapping. So right now it's set on triplanar. If I put this up to 8 levels, we can see it clearer. And with the triplanar, it's basically going to do what you would consider box mapping. And you can technically see this because there are some slight issues. If we imagine that this is being projected from every side, so top, down, left, right, as the tunnel is going down, we can see that there's some slight seams here along the edge, just very faintly. Not enough to be like immediately recognizable, but if you know what to look for, you can see it there. And then we can also control the strength of this effect as well. So I can scrub that further in and backwards to make it inverse if we wanted to. And if we look at this in the rendered mode, we can see that it's quite interesting, especially with the volumetrics and the lighting here. It looks quite nice, but these subdivision levels make a significant impact on the look. For example, if I have this down to 5 for the viewport, I mean, this looks terrible. It's just like hardly anything going on. If I set this up to 9, so this looks really, really cool for like final renders. It's the kind of thing where obviously you'd set this up so you would know what it looks like for the render, and then you just use the lower viewport level while you're working on the scene. And yeah, if you haven't already guessed, there's a definite alien influence with this. One of the other methods that's available is the scattered method, which is more for organic type of displacement. So if I plug this in, you'll be able to see the difference. It's less structured, less ordered, and more randomized. So you can see that here. Obviously, with the pipes preset, if I open this back up again, the pipes are a definite seamless pattern. So you only expect them to go around in a structured way. So you'd only use the triplanar for that. So it makes sense that they're being projected around a mesh in a certain way. But I've got another example here, which is just called alien, which is more appropriate for the scattered mode. So let's take a look at this. If I remove that modifier, I am playing with fire here a bit because I'm applying it with the extremely high subdiv level. Typically you wouldn't apply it with a subd level that high, but you know, for the sake of having a nice visual demonstration, I'll do this. And even in the add-on here, you can see requires high geometry density. So if I apply the alien effect, okay, so this one is scattered by default. Let me hide the overlays. And you can see what's going on here. Because it's an organic displacement effect, it's much more appropriate for being randomly scattered around the scene. And I think the effect is quite cool. And having something that's more high frequency random and scattered as well means it's more obscure. So it's going to look interesting being inset as well as extruded. So if I make this negative 0.07, that's going to inset it and it will give us a different effect. But it still looks really cool for a tunnel scene. Now I need to give a big shout out to Erin, otherwise known as Erin Dell, for helping me to understand how the mapping works. I've been pestering him him and he's been very helpful. So thank you very much, Aaron. He has his own collection of nodes called the ETK for helping with doing stuff like this in geometry nodes anyway. But over time, we can expect to see that the Blender development team are going to be adding more nodes for simplifying the process of doing these things. But I think it's good to understand how they work fundamentally. God, I'm having to add so many bits to this video afterwards because I forgot to tell you about everything. So basically, there's another blend file that comes packaged with Biogen, which I'm calling the depth tool. So this will help you to make your own height maps for Biogen. So strictly speaking, you can sculpt onto a plane or just add your own objects in and then render that out as a height map, however you like. It's quite a simple file, but I think it will help people that don't know how to set that up. So yeah, just letting you know that's another little bit that's coming in the add-on. So that's generally how the mesh displacement works. Let's take a look at the multi-layered surface effects now, and then we can talk a bit more about software design. Okay, so here I have a basic scene with a sphere, and it's a boring sphere. It's technically it's a cube, but cubes can be spheres if they like. Now, when you're applying surface effects, if you take a look up here, also I should say as well, thumbnails have been updated and there's some extra presets here that you might not have seen before. Another thing to note is that there's a bit of a bug in this version of Blender. It's a very ugly issue where the padding is completely wrong between these thumbnails and you have these extremely rounded corners. I hate it. They're working on it. They've been made aware of it. But if you choose a surface effect, there are two things you can do. You can apply it generally to the object. So if I press apply to selected, it will just add the barnacle straight away. But let me undo that. And then there's also the apply with weight paint, which is going to automatically put you in a weight painted mode where you can paint it on. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that because it's weight painted, it's vertex based. So because this is a cube with a subdivision surface modifier applied, there's still technically only 8 vertices. And you can see them here with the subdiv outline. So if I click here to add 1 to that influence of the vertex in this vertex group, that's going to make the effect apply all around that part of the object, which you don't really want. So I'm going to apply this subdiv modifier, and then we can start painting these on with a much higher quality. So we can go crazy with that and just do what we like. And yes, you can paint this on in the cycles mode. You can see how it updates as we're doing it. It's quite fun to play with. I can hide the overlays and just keep painting around. Stop the video. Did you see that? That beautiful viewport render speed and responsiveness? Do you know how that's possible? Yes, you say? Well, I'll tell you anyway. With a combination of the new Cycles X performance improvements combined with GPU hardware acceleration provided by NVIDIA GPUs powered by their RT and Tensor cores and RTX series cards, you too will be able to enjoy such extreme rendering power. Take a look at this rendering speed difference. I think it's rather safe to say what I would choose. Did someone say AI-assisted denoising? Thank you, Tensor cores, very cool. Or perhaps Nano VDB is more to your taste. Faster, high-quality volume rendering? Don't mind if I do. Remember, there's a link below if you want to learn more. Now back to the video. And all this does is it adds a geometry nodes tree with the barnacles collection applied, which was also imported into the scene so we can modify absolutely every aspect of it and even add our own content to that collection. And then from this geonodes tree, I can play with things like the random scale, so I can make them larger, smaller, the rotation and everything else. Even the density, so if I make this 500, over the areas we've already painted, the density increases. So let me set that back down. But here's the fun thing. While we're still in paint mode for this barnacles, we can choose another effect, like I'll go with the leaves, press apply weight paint again, and without even leaving, changing mode or anything, we can continue painting, but now we're painting leaves instead. This automatically adds a new geonodes tree onto the object, which we can again modify to our own liking. So I can change the scale of the leaves, paint more areas on. I'll do this in the solid view as well. So keep painting, paint around, having fun, making a weird barnacle leaf thing. And then if I like, I can go up, add more to the density to make it even thicker, and keep on painting. So it's very fluid. We don't need to change modes. We can do what we like. And like I said, it's all customizable. So if we go up here to the leaf section, make this collection visible, go into object mode with the leaf selected. Let's go to the materials. Take a look at the leaf. I have an AO-based material here set up by default, so you can see how where things are intersecting, we have the brown elements in between, like dirt. So I can customize this and make this blue instead if I like. I like that. I think that's quite pretty. Go back into weight paint and continue painting more of these on. So if you want to go back to painting a different mode, say we had the barnacles already selected, all you do is just choose the original vertex group and then continue painting with that. Now I do need to change it so that the groups are automatically named the same as the effect, so it's easy for you to remember. And then we can continue. So if I choose a different mode, tangle, apply with weight paint, and then start painting, we get these coming on as well. So that's generally the workflow for the surface effects. But like I said, you can add your own content. So the point of these is to give you a foundation that you can either use for your artwork or build your own effects on top of. So say I take the leaves demonstration again. I have my leaf over here. It doesn't matter where it's placed in 3D space. If I make a sphere, like a UV sphere, scale this down, because I already had the leaves collection selected, it's automatically added. Let me apply the scale, scale it down a bit more. You can see that the sphere is now being added in between the leaves. let me make the original sphere darker so it's easy to see this. So you can see the sphere interspersed with the leaves there. So if you had your own nature assets with your own collection of leaves, you could add those into the collection and just paint them on as you like. Okay, so I've been kind of developing BioGen with proof cases in mind. And what I mean by that is, well, the term proof case I'm using to represent a combination of a use case and a proof of concept, which where I have an idea for something I want to make, like an art scene of some kind, and then I'll develop features which make that possible. So with the tunnel demo, I was thinking, well, I like Alien and Prometheus. Covenant not as good, but you know, I like those films. And I was thinking, okay, they've got a lot of those types of tunnels in them, kind of very dark and ominous and complex. So okay, mesh displacement features will make that possible, and these are the types of presets I like for that. Same thing with the surface effects. It's like, okay, well, here's a type of artwork I want to make, like a very abstract type armor piece character or something. So maybe I'll choose that tangle mode, apply with weight paint, and then start painting around the character. And then quickly, let's scale these down. And it's like, okay, in a few seconds, we get an abstract armor around a character. Done. Easy. BioGen. Good. So that's a proof case. The problem with working with proof cases is that you can very easily tunnel vision in. The thing is, it's very common for software developers to focus in on a very specific proof case and do the minimum viable amount to make that possible. And I'm just a small add-on developer, right? But I'm very aware of that. So what I want to do is continue making pieces of artwork and then adding new presets and features to BioGen to make those artworks possible. Okay, so I painted some leaves around him and he actually looks a bit Christmassy now. But yeah, the point is the actual adding of features is not necessarily the hardest part from like a wider management perspective. The harder part is actually making something useful for a wide range of purposes. That also requires that time is invested into making a wide range of content after the fact. As you can see here with the mesh displacement, I've got two presets here. There's the minimum viable amount for testing the widest amount of functionality. So the alien is for the scattered and organic version, and then the pipe panels is for the alternative, which is like the more linear and more structurally mapped around a surface type. So in developing features, it's like, okay, here's the minimum amount of stuff we need to actually make the functionality work. So I want to take some time to kind of widen the pool of content available for more realistic use cases. But this idea of proof cases expands not just to actual artistic content, but to the actual node groups themselves. Because a lot of these surface effect node groups are built for just random scattering, but there's also preparation for curve inputs, so being able to like draw curves and have those distribute. But you know, what about things like clustering and proximity detection and stuff like that? Well, further down the line, I'll think, okay, well, we'll do a proof case artwork which requires the proximity and clustering, and then we will take the lessons from that and then add them to the pre-existing node groups. So as more proof cases are made, the toolset for the add-on becomes more useful. But then I also think to myself, all right, well, if we want to get the add-on out this year, there's only so many cases we can do before releasing version 1, and then we'll do more cases afterwards before reaching the second version and stuff like that. So I need to specifically define an endpoint for version 9 of the add-on that can be released. So in my mind now, there's one more major proof case to do for this version of the add-on, which is for the volume effects, which, as I mentioned in the previous video, is about basically taking an interior of a mesh and then scattering objects inside. So say you had like a broken panel of machinery, what do you see behind that broken panel? So I'm going to be working on that. And then once that's ready, I'll work on sub-proof cases to again flesh out more of the presets for these different things. And then when I think that's done, I guess that will be ready to release. I do keep adding lists of other features that I want to add as well. But again, it's always a question of, okay, well, how much do we actually add before releasing? But anyway, yeah, sorry if that's a bit rambly. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's gotten you excited to play around with the features. But as you can probably tell, I have been adding some extra stuff as well, just for fun, for like, you know, all different types of artworks. So I'll continue to do this, and I will also need to define exactly what collections of content get included in the free version and what's going to get moved to content packs, because like I said in the previous one as well, there's support for add-on packs for this as well. Remember, this video is sponsored by NVIDIA and PCSpecialist. If you take a look at the link in the description, you'll see a web page on PCSpecialist website where you'll learn more about how NVIDIA Studio can help to enhance your creative workflows. You'll also be able to take a look at NVIDIA's recommended specs, so if you wanted, you can design your own computer which PCSpecialist will build and send over to you. And if you take a look at this footage, you can see they actually provided me with a computer which I'm nicknaming the Render Beast. And this is the kind of machine you can build using the link below. So thanks for watching everyone. Sorry, I've just been designing Frankenstein's monster here. Have a great day, and I will see you next time.